actually from Orlando, from the biochem facility. But you know me, New York local, here for season 1, episode 1 of the Northeast Cannabis Tour. That's what I'm doing out here. That's my little area of the woods for Respect My Regions, American Weed Tour. And it's a big one, man. I got a legend over here, Jeffrey Hoffman, aka the 420 Juror. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing outstanding. Loving joining you in New York City.
Heck yeah. So why don't we dive right in and sort of say, who are you? You know, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm an attorney here in New York City. Been pretty my whole life. Cannabis user since 1989. Have been across many states. Have lived in New York for a long time. When Colorado and Washington in 12 for adult use. I started teaching a bunch of continuing legal education class, adult use cannabis, and the legalization that was coming. Unfortunately, it took New York almost to get its act together, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. But, you know, we're super excited here. Got the state legislature to legalize cannabis. We're working on expunging everybody's low-level cannabis offenses are getting expunged automatically. And as we were going to have a regulated cannabis industry, my math says across the state of New York, we're going to have space. Interestingly enough, we're the first state that is going to have out of the box, so to speak. So instead of when I go watch my favorite soccer team, Manchester United, who is not my favorite soccer team, but if you want to watch Manchester United, you can now be able to smoke a blunt, not just go to a pub where you can drink a beer. So
Yeah, no, that's important, that consumption aspect, you know, giving people sort of that place. It all plays into, you know, the normalization of it. I love that. So you're a New York local?
Yeah, I'm in New York City. Have lived here for many years. And, you know, my legal practice has been here for a number of years, and it's time to do cannabis in a legal practice. I can't tell you how excited we are about that here. It's about time. I have clients all over the state working with, obviously, a lot of folks here in the city, but got clients in Buffalo, you know, pretty much all the big cities. And that's the one thing people got to remember. I do think is going to be the cannabis tourism capital of the world. Mm-hmm. Folks may recall that New York City, Amsterdam, if you want to get its name, and it's just somewhat appropriate that take the title from old Amsterdam. If you've been looking at what's going on in Amsterdam, they've actually been the ability for tourists to get into the coffee shops. The mayor is actually going to bring that up in September. And here in New Amsterdam, we're going 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Literally cannot walk in New York City now without smelling people there. Something that is fascinating about the law here, even though you're in California or Washington or Colorado or any of the other states, it is still to be smoking in public on the sidewalk in those states. You're only really supposed to be smoking at your home. However, here in the state of New York, it is 100% legal for you to smoke a cigarette. So for that reason, you know, particularly what is the last thing an international tourist wants to deal with? Law enforcement in a country. And so we will be able to promote New York as not only the place where you'll be able to buy in a dispensary, and not only the place where you'll literally be able to go into cannabis bars, describe them yet, you will then be able to take that cannabis, and as you walk from the dispensary to hallucinate at all of the beautiful impressionist paintings, you'll be able to smoke your dispensary to MoMA, and it will be 100% legal for you to do so. So that really compelling part of the law that was passed here in New York.
I would not just agree to that. I would say that it's fascinating because I remember going to high school in Manhattan, and I remember smoking blunts at lunch, and you were taking your life into your hands, so to speak. You know, you heard that whoop whoop, he ran, so it's really exciting that is an element of the coming up of the whole, of the economy, frankly. I was going to say
Absolutely.
culture, but it goes deeper.
And so the legal smoking part is dispensaries are going to be coming, maybe a few late this year, and then mostly as we get into 20 rules about possession and consumption are in effect now. So you can walk around the streets of flour and 24 grams of concentrate and pop that out of your bag and take a hit, and it really is pretty incredible.
So can you why is New York, other than we're the best city in the world, why are we doing this differently? Why are we, what's the big idea?
So I think a couple of things. I wanted to California. I was actually born in San Francisco, so I have nothing negative to say. California talks about being the largest cannabis market. That includes San Francisco. And having lived in San Francisco is not LA, not the same market. They're many hundreds of miles apart. And just all due respect, I don't this market. If you were going to ask me what is the largest single cannabis market in the world, it's got to be New York City, right? You're talking about a city with a population of 8 million, greater New York City area, which is only, tens of miles across, not in San Francisco. You've got, whatever number people want to use, 16 million, 20 million people, single unified cannabis market on the planet. And it's all New York. People are like, we're so excited. We're about to have a cannabis industry. And I have to them, no, we've had a cannabis industry here in New York, and especially in New York City, right? And it's been a very robust industry, and by and large, right? For those of you back in the 80s that remember, you had a pager, or they would call his pager number, and it would ring, and he would show up at your door, and you would be lucky if he had sativa. And I mean, concentrates. Nobody knew what concentrates were back then. I mean, maybe if you were
spending $50 on a 50 bag, it wasn't even an eighth.
That's right. Maybe if you were lucky, every now and then he would say, "Hey, man, I got something, rack hashish. Do you want some?" And that would be it. That would be the only thing you would get like this. New York has that history for as long as I've been alive, right? And so what is the flowering of what we call here the legacy market? I guess that everybody's got their own ticket here. And the legacy market is going to be, right? And in fact, if you'll let me just do a little bit of an editorial, where California has messed up a little, is they made the legacy market and not a partner. And what we need to do here in New York is we need to make the legacy market not a competitor. And if the legacy market is a partner to the regulated market, can thrive. Because you're talking about taking the people that have the domain experience. They've been doing it, like I said, since as long as I've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have them be players in the regulated industry. Let's do these things together. Then we have a $10 billion regulated cannabis market in the United States, not 20% regulated and 80%, whatever you want to call it, like they do in California with all these
market, we'll call it. Yeah. No, absolutely. So we're hoping to avoid some of those problems on the East Coast and in some of these other states opening up. What I'd actually like to ask you is, what would be your so your prediction is what, as far as cannabis and New York are related? 10 years, 20 years from now, what's the cannabis capital of the world?
I don't even think you have to go out that far. 5 years, New York City will be the cannabis tourism capital of the world. Gets double the number of international tourists as the number 2 city in the United States. International tourists spend 3 to 4 times the amount that domestic tourists spend. To see an unbelievable explosion here in New York City and upstate New York. I think upstate during the spring and summer seasons, I think there is an incredible bed and breakfast and kind of tourism. I mean, what cannabis aficionado go to the Finger Lakes region of New York, which is incredibly beautiful.
You took that out of my head, man.
And go to a facility, see flower bean cultivation, see where they're processing it, and then go to their store and they have wine tours and beer brewery tours. At the end of the tour, you then actually buy trait from the same kind of plant that you saw being grown, and then take that with you to a lake and sit on a beach or high off your ass and just taking it all in. I mean, what an unbelievable can be, and New York is just unbelievably ripe for that.
No, I couldn't agree more, and I'm glad that you brought up the Finger Lakes because it speaks to something that I think a lot of people don't realize, which is that New York State is more than just New York City, and there's phenomenal opportunities sort of throughout. Let me actually ask
the tourism possibilities in this state, especially because liberal consumption laws are just going to be off the hizzy. It's going to be incredible.
Yes. No, well said. And so, to pivot a little bit, I want to know where you come in the sense of, maybe when I say who, I mean, like, give us an idea, paint us sort of a broad strokes of what area of the law related to cannabis is, because I don't think there's a cannabis law major yet, is there?
So there's really no so much major, and let's be honest, people are really not prepared to do anything. Right? Law school is very much an intellectual exercise with the language that we're going to use and how to be a lawyer. You really aren't able to do anything, start doing something, working with a contracts lawyer, learning how contracts negotiate, working with a cannabis lawyer and what are the ins and outs of doing that. So for me, I bring a little bit of a different perspective from a lawyer would. So I went to undergrad and law school in beautiful University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And while I was there, I was a cannabis grower. I grew something and to share and when necessary, sell to make rent. Not only am I an attorney, I am, it's been a long time gone since I've done it. But
you're a trapper.
What's that?
You were a trapper too.
Exactly. I was a trapper too. And what I'm doing here in New York, it's really two phases. So as I like to tell people, New York now, we are deep in the throes of beginning the licensing process. So we legalized it, and we've given out a few types of licenses, some of the initial cultivation license, initial processing licenses. But we are now knee-deep in the process of working their license applications ready, get their businesses ready, do the partner or supplier.
Not to interrupt you, but a happy 420 to you, sir. It is 420, at least on the East Coast.
Now I do my Ask Me Anything at 420, and I may walk into the other room and join you here and just do that while I'm.
That would be fabulous. No, we love that. This is. Actually, I'll just quickly shout out to Your Highness laced me with this amazing, so it's Squirt. It's a drop. I think they're going to do it Trans Bay. And boy, I'll tell you, this is a Melonade Shady Apples cross that just kicks. What are you smoking? I love it.
One of the things that I find as a cannabis attorney, and literally before I got on with a potential client, and I do find that in this day and come back to the house with more cannabis than I left the house with. So yeah. I met what the client gives me when I go to meet with them. So I'm going to put the phone down and talk to you over this and get it prepped for my session with you.
Sounds good,
so again, back to what we're up to. We're getting everybody ready for the licensing and those applications are going to be fashion over the next several months. So I think by this time next year, you will see open selling cannabis either as a dispensary or an on-site lounge, those types of things. But the other thing that I'm really involved in is the expungement. So that we still have people with cannabis convictions on their records and opening. So I'm going to walk back in and get the scissors. It's unacceptable that we have people that are cannabis offenses, and it's unacceptable that we have people that still have this on their records. So fill out a housing application or a job application. One of the questions they have you ever been convicted of a crime? And if you have to answer yes, that very often means that you are not getting that job and you're not getting that house. We're doing here in New York, the low-level cannabis offenses are getting automatically expunge. Level cannabis offenses, they have given us a mechanism where we have to do a filing in court expunge. Now the problem is we got a lot of DAs in the more conservative that are opposing these motions, but that's one of the other big things we're working on. So we pay the rent, get their licenses, and we pay it forward by getting people out of jail and get expunged so they no longer have to check the yes box.
Yes, I think that's super noble and important work. I have a thought to myself often, which is that it's interesting to be operating in an industry where people are making millions legally while there are some people still in cages. 100%. That is interesting. So would you say New York's fairly progressive in regards to that area of things? It seems like New York's crushing it with this potential. At least how the regulations are panning out now, it looks like they're doing a better job than most.
Yeah. So I think, most other states have given lip service. New York is very, very serious about it. So the first example of that, the first roughly 150, 200 dispensaries in this world that were previously convicted of a cannabis offense. And so when people say what equity and justice, I can't imagine something bigger than giving your first cannabis people that were previously incarcerated for cannabis.
Absolutely.
Additionally, there are all kinds of things that be helpful to social and economic equity applicants and communities that are impacted by cannabis enforcement. 40% of the tax revenue is grant funding for communities that were negatively impacted by cannabis enforcement. Half of the licenses will go to social and economic equity applicants. So we'll be in the pudding, and we've got several more months to go before all of this actually. But the signs are good, and every time I've seen Tremaine Wright speak, Tremaine Wright is board here in New York. She has said we have a mandate for equity in New York. So we have dropped the ball, or at least probably didn't even think about this when they initially did Massachusetts and some other states kind of backfill. New York is thinking about this out of the gate. And
yeah.
Beautiful. All right. What else we got?
Yeah. So we're thinking about it right out of the gate. And so I guess I got to steer the conversation to this, which is what I know everyone's going to want to know. Where does the person who wants to get into cannabis, how many times a day do you get the question, I want to be in cannabis, what do I do, type of thing? Where's your, I would be doing a disservice to the culture if we didn't sort of like do some, a little bit of helping them out, right? Where could someone in New York or the tri-state looking to be in legal cannabis, where should they foray into?
Remember, because I know everybody has got so excited about we're going to be issuing licenses. There'll be several thousand licensees in the state of New York, but there are going to be hundreds working in the cannabis industry. So, New York is a little bit early. This growers and stores here in New York. So if you're really interested in free at all, I would recommend trying to get an entry-level job in one of those facilities, either at a cultivator, maybe a machine operator at a processor, or a bud tender. Frankly, bud tenders really need a lot of experience here in New York because people know what they're getting, and you can't know bud tender.
Well, so how could they be a bud tender right now, at least, let's say?
There are medical stores.
For the medical store, of course. See, all right, this. Hey, Your Highness, the squirt's kicking in. Yes, right. Of course, for medical.
There are medical stores are operators in New York, registered organizations or ROs. You know, lawyers love the acronyms. So, if I was a go-getter and I wanted to work in a dispensary, cannabis lingo and what different types of cannabis do for you, so that I would go get a job at one of the medical dispensaries. Now, there's of course going to be a pharmacist there, but bud tenders can help their clients as well. And I would get that experience, or I would go over New Jersey has started opening the recreational dispensaries. I think there's like 13 or 14 in New Jersey, and I would just get that experience. I would get that entry-level experience my way up the chain. I would be a bud tender, then I would be an assistant manager, then I would be a manager, and then I would have.
So just in any other way. So that's sort of what I tell people. They often will say, they don't know where to start. So that's a phenomenal, aspect of it. And so could I actually ask you this? This is personally very interesting. Because of the relative gray area that a lot of things are in the nature of like unregulated. When something is unregulated, it doesn't mean that, it's illegal or legal, in many ways. What I'm wondering is this: what can you speak to about, what do you know of the scenario for operators who potentially want to get licensing for, be it a delivery or a cultivation, you name it, and the current state of the gray market? Could you give sort of our homies still hitting the streets a little bit of insight?
Yeah. So what you don't want to get on the bad side of your regulator. My number one advice to every worked with, and I used to do a lot in the mobile vending industry in New York. So, all the food cart, very involved in that industry. And you just wanted to be buddies with your regulator. Inspected. Why would you stick a sharp stick in your regulators to be inspected? Make them your buddies. When they come to see your cart, give them right. Make it easy for them to do their jobs when they're looking at your cart, right? Okay, so you don't want to be on the wrong side of your regulator, right? So if you're going to see market activities, be cool about it. Anyone here that lives in New York, name the entities that are in the New York Post or CBS News every other week. Legal with this gray area that it doesn't, you can't regulate me and screw you out. That is a terrible way to go, right? Even if you want to be in the legacy market, shove the sharp stick in your regulator's eye. So here in New York, the about 50 cease and desist letters to the most vocal and most visible, and they've told them, if you don't stop this, you're never getting a license, so don't bother applying. And those businesses have to decide what they're going to do. For someone that's already acting about it, and let's be clear, we already talked about, there's been a cannabis industry here in New York, and for, let's say it's been 60 years. For 59 years in the cannabis industry, they had to be as quiet as a mouse, okay? So do that for a little longer. Nobody's trying to arrest you anymore at all.
As my father would say, loose lips sink ships.
There you go. So be cool. Do your New York Post. Don't scream at the OCM, screw you, I don't need a license. Do your thing. And then when the license opens, get one. Because how are we, when the legacy market is a partner to the regulated market, and that goes for the legacy market itself. Would the legacy guys out in California be better off if everybody was one big kumbaya and having a $1 trillion cannabis industry, I know it's not going to be that big, but you get how much better? What's that?
No, I agree. Yes, continue.
Just everybody was rowing in the same direction. Okay, so let's do that here in New York. It's got to give a little, and that means the legacy market's got to give a little. But we all give a little billion or a $15 billion cannabis industry here in New York, and you will have gone. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but I don't mean to interrupt you, but could you? I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask, since you seem to be, an advocate for the legacy market.
Big time.
Do you think they'll be included? I mean, that's not how it's played out in other states historically.
New York. No, I hear you. So I gave you the example earlier about how New York is doing it justice and equity side. No other state has given its first 100, 150 to people that were previously convicted of cannabis offenses in those states. No one. Okay? Yeah, New York is going to screw up 100%. We're going to screw up in big and better ways than any other. That being said, we're also thinking about it in smart ways, correct ways, better than other states have. And I hope other states will look at some of the things we're doing to employ them. So I'm a big advocate for the legacy market. The first way I can trying to welcome the legacy market is they've stopped. You can't for cannabis in the state of New York anymore. I talked to the sergeant, and he told me from on high, we have been told, okay, so within a 12-block radius of my apartment, I can take you to call them whatever you want, cannabis dispensaries, bodega dispensaries, whatever they are, from the guy that looks like a normal bodega, and if you say the right word, walks out from underneath his desk and sell you a pre-roll or some way up to a place that, it might as well not even be a bodega. They've got one cooler over in the store is a cannabis store. Okay? So you've got all of this different rays of it, and nobody is getting arrested or even no one cares. Okay? I get where they're not going to be able to do this forever because the state is going to get 12 alcohol, and you can't just open a bar and not get a license in New York. It's going to be so. This is the big way I look at it. You would not even think twice getting a drink or going into a supermarket and buying a six-pack. And even your most friendly people that you know that are okay with alcohol wouldn't even think twice in getting a drink or going into a grocery store and getting a six-pack. It's a stigma in this country, and it is still special. And I like that, and I do a few years of cannabis being special in the way you and I appreciate it as being special. The next 10 years, you were projecting out 10 to 15 years. And New York is going to be the capital of tourism in the world in 5 years. But in 10 to 15 years, people are not going to a cannabis consumption lounge and having a joint, and people are not going to, it's going to be part of people are not going to think twice about going into a dispensary and getting a couple of pre-rolls to skin. Just like you wouldn't think twice about getting a fifth and a six-pack to enjoy at the lake with your buddies. That sea change in our relationship to cannabis has, with Colorado and Washington, it's taken us 10 years to get where we are now. It's 18 states that have adult use, recreational, whatever you want to call it. Medical is higher, but I think that's about right for the adult use. Don't quote me, but a lot of states.
Medical, I think.
What's that?
I think in the medical, it's up to was it like 30? Yeah, don't quote me either.
Yeah, I think medical is over half, and I think the recreational or adult use is like 18 or something like that. So my point is, each change is happening. And 10 years from now, so like now, that's going to be in college or just out of college who's going to get high just like we did in college. It's going to be like you're going to go to the bar, go to the grocery store and get a 6-pack. And I don't like the stigma. I understand the stigma comes with it. But I do want to, in a decade and a half of cannabis really being always have a place in my heart. But we will know that we've won that when our society going to get a joint or get a 7-pack of joints or whatever, because that's your lucky number, is no different than getting a cigar and having a drink. Mm-hmm. They're the same substance. They're the same class of substances, regulated substances, whatever you want to call it. Our society has decided that you got to do it. So as much as I love cannabis way more than alcohol, use these types of substances very similarly, but for the fact that alcohol has been legal for 80, 90, 100 years, and we're just now figuring out how stupid we were about enforcement, right?
No, absolutely. So man, it's I'll tell you this, like people, you hear cannabis and lawyer and you think a couple of different things, you know, and like you got a couple ideas in your head. I have a great cannabis lawyer myself, shout out Chris Hickok. You are that too, man. I'm so excited to have been able to speak to you because you are true culture. I can definitely see and say that now, man, for sure. It's refreshing and it's further invigorating to see that. Like,
can we talk about my favorite cannabis products? Joey told me, and I've got to stick a sharp stick in the eye. So, natural guy, like I said, started getting high in the late 80s. All you could get was flower, so I couldn't even do any of this other stuff. I'm a big horchata when I need to just become part of the mattress. I just lay back on the mattress and you're like, I can't really get up. Here in the building, I do think I'd be able to get up and get out of the building, but otherwise I'm part of this match. That's a big favorite of me. I've really liked, since, decriminalization and we're able to get the concentrates now, I'm a big fan of the THC diamonds. Some of the other stuff is a little too saucy for me. It sticks to the end of the dab tool, and I just like the more crystalline stuff where you can really scoop it. And what I like saw kind of what I had here, nice little glass kind of mini chillum. I didn't do it really quickly to pack a bowl so you and I could be sharing at the same time. But normally when I layer of flour, and then I'll drop a layer of diamonds on it, and then another layer. I like to layer my consumption,
diamond hole,
because it gives that.
So it's instead of a hash hole, you're rolling a diamond hole.
A diamond hole, exactly. So like to some other chemicals that we're just not going to mention here, there used to be things called snow. Outed myself by saying that, but anyway. So this is kind of your THC snow cap, right? Forested hills of your weed, and then often your THC diamonds color. So it's kind of like the snow cap on top of your green field there. And to me, that's just
that's your beauty. That's funny you say that because and thanks for reminding me about it being or concentrate month. How did it slip my mind? Because the month is almost over, but I will have to say, because you just got made me excited there. I gotta say shout out to Dylan at Globs for some diamonds. We got to get you some of these diamonds, man.
Yeah.
If you're a diamond,
I'll send you my.
I won't be doing any of that. You'll have to go in person. That's for sure.
No, I'm obviously kidding. We're not. They'll probably just confiscate it and smoke it themselves. Just to be honest, they're not. But yeah, definitely. That's my thing, and I love doing the layers. Look, this is what Joey is going to give me unbelievable shit for this. I like it. There is a Packwoods, and don't yell at me. I know Joey hates, shit about smoking the backwoods, but
yeah.
this is for him. They have a particular that's with the white runts, right? So here, I'll even show it to you. Hold on a second. An extreme sweet tooth. So like when I was a child, I only ate dinner, and so I have an incredible sweet tooth. And like, here you go. Here's the thing. You see, it's the runts and the nuggin, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, I wants the white runts just has this unbelievable sweet after tongue, and I know it's part of the sauce in there as well, because that product with the cannabis and the form factor, it's that you get this unbelievable sweet taste as you're getting high. And for me, that just has a super sweet tooth. It's just Joey's gonna give me shit. He may never let me come on again, but that's it. There you go.
Well, man, I think everyone's gonna go out and cop one for sure. Well, dude, this has been incredible. Where can people find you? Like, so are you on IG? Are you on LinkedIn? I know you're on all these. Tell people everywhere. Where's the website?
So my website is 420jurist.com. 420 and then jurist.com. Said I do most of my stuff on LinkedIn, and the reason for that is, and everybody needs to know, and the RMR crew are there bigly, as they say, for what LinkedIn, which is the most conservative business-oriented of sites, they've decided they're going to be the one that's just going to let anything go on cannabis. If you post cannabis on Instagram, 50-50 your post, and you do it enough, and eventually you get banned.
Oh, yeah.
And that is true of all the other social media. LinkedIn, they don't.
I've seen white collar trapping on LinkedIn more blatant than you could ever imagine. So, that's interesting. That's a good platform for people to be on. You're saying as a piece of advice.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, 420 on my website, if you're on the mobile, or if you go on on the web, and if you're on Burger, the 3 lines at the top, and it gives you the option. It takes you to my 2 LinkedIn pages, about cannabis, frequently about the law, what's going on. And then the other thing, every Wednesday at 4:20, I do Ask Me Anything About Cannabis, and it's a LinkedIn live event.
On LinkedIn?
It's on LinkedIn. Go to my website, 420jurist.com, and either at the top of the website, if you're on the web, or clickable, it'll give you the option to go to Ask Me Anything. And again, it's a weekly event, and we take questions from the audience. We mostly about New York, but we do some cannabis questions, and we answer everybody's questions. Right? Information is power, so we got to get the.
That's awesome.
Wednesdays at 4:20.
Wednesday, you heard it. 4:20. I'm glad that I would say it's Tuesday. So heck yeah, man, this is great.
Wednesday. Wednesday.
Today's Tuesday. Tomorrow.
Tuesday. Right. Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Correct. And so tomorrow at 4:20.
I forgot what day it was. It's all good.
Tune in. Okay, and so then every Tuesday you're going to tune into this right here, Northeast. So you got Tuesday at 4 to 4:20 hour with me, episode 2 next Tuesday, and then you got on Wednesday the AMA every week with the man Jeffrey Hoffman. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. It's beautiful. Let's start opening stores. I'll take you on a tour of the store.
All right, let's meet up in the city, definitely.
My friend.
All right, thank you.